I remember there was like a whole argument about how like I'm not allowed to wear cat eyeliner.
Why?
I don't know.
It's iconic.
I don't know. But like I've been wearing my makeup like this since I was 15, and I was like, I don't look like myself when I don't do that. And I was just like, they wanted to change the way that I dressed, all this stuff, and I was like, I've been here before. I don't like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I pushed back, and so there was always kind of like a butting of heads with the label.
Were you then labeled difficult?
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
It's the Pop Report.
So juicy.
Hey, bitch.
Hi.
You know,
Yes.
you're always ready for the hey, bitch.
Well, because I'm a bitch, so I'm used to just being called hey bitch down the street.
And I called you Hey Quasimodo. You were like, that's the one you were
Yeah,
very
that's what we
offended.
don't. Yeah, we don't say offensive, but like I'm a bitch.
And you own it.
I do.
You know who else is a boss ass fucking bitch?
Who's the boss?
I'm so excited. Like, I'm just gonna right out the gate. We're here with Miss Hot fucking City, Bonnie McQueen. Bonnie McKee. I'm like just choking up. Like, hi.
Hi.
You are amazing.
I like Bonnie McQueen. I'm
Bonnie
down for
McQueen.
She is the queen.
You look stunning in person.
Oh, thank you. You're
Like,
so sweet.
You have this so beautiful persona. Everyone's like, I like the hair. Like people recognize you. How long does it take you to get ready?
I can usually pull it together in like an hour.
Really?
Yeah, but if I'm like doing like a red carpet thing or whatever, then give me like 3.
And do you do it yourself, or it's like you have your glam
Day
squad?
to day, I do it myself, but you know, I've gotten better over the
Wow.
years, and it's pretty expensive. So I'm just like, whatever. If I can pull it together, then I'll do it.
I feel like Andy needs a glam squad.
Yeah, you do. Like the cargo pants look is like tired and worn out, and every gay on the street's like, I've seen this look. And I'm like, you're right, you have, because it's my athleisure at this point. But Bonnie, I'm so happy you're here personally. I followed your music and everything for a while, like quite a few years. For those bitches who don't know, how would you describe your music and what you do and how talented you are?
Well, I won't comment on how talented I am
She's like,
specifically.
I'm so talented. That's when people ask. Yeah, if you were asking me that, I'd be like, I'm so talented, top tier, Emmy
No,
worthy.
I'm just, I have a niche for writing pop hooks. I am passionate about pop music. I would describe my music as sparkly, colorful, classic pop music.
So were you like a pop girly growing up?
Yes, definitely.
Who were your go-tos?
I mean, I loved Madonna. I loved Michael Jackson, Prince. Like, I really love the 80s pop specifically. I feel like those songs have stuck around and really proved to be evergreen for a reason. And then obviously the 90s was all, you know, more like Nirvana, and that's all cool too. But when Britney Spears and NSYNC and all of that came back in the Spice Girls, I was like, oh yeah, they're speaking my language. But I had to be like secretive about it because I was like fancied myself alt. And so I was like, no, like fuck Britney Spears, like blah, blah, blah. But then like obviously years later went on to write with her and like be her biggest fan. So I secretly like knew all the dances and was obsessed, but I had to pretend like I was like too cool for that.
Do you know her current dances, like the knives?
Haven't memorized them, but I am familiar.
That should be a TikTok trend. Like people should, well, not with like real knives, but like,
Right.
like somebody could recreate some of those dances.
So going to your start in music, how did everything get started for you? You have like, obviously you're singing and like discography, you have your writing side, but how did you get started in music?
Well, I grew up singing in choir. I was a choir nerd. I was classically trained. And I would do like open mics and like record cover songs and stuff. I did like Carole King and Jewel and like Bette Midler.
Ooh,
like
good picks. Yeah.
And then I made a demo of original songs when I was like 14 and gave it to everybody I knew. And I had like a CD burner where I could burn like 4 CDs at a time. And I was like, I'm basically a record label.
That was like a cool kid thing too.
I mean,
like when you had that, you're like, I am the record store.
Yeah.
Like
And I gave demos to everyone I knew. My friend babysat for someone who knew someone in LA, and I got a random call, and they were like, "Hey, like we think you're talented. Come to LA." And they flew me down, and I got a record deal, and I moved here at 16 by myself, and I've been doing it ever since.
So music was always the goal. Now, did you want to be more of a performer, or was writing also something?
No, I definitely wanted to be a performer. The whole being a professional songwriter thing was a total accident, a total fluke, and really just kind of out of necessity. It was kind of like my plan B. I always wanted to be an artist. I love to perform. I love to sing. I love to make music videos. I'm a very visual artist. And so when I got into the songwriting stuff, I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. I didn't even know this was a job. But I also was like, oh, I don't get to have any say in how it looks or, that kind of thing. And so ultimately, songwriting was just a stepstone to get back to being an artist again.
Nice.
Mhm.
So what was it like putting out your first album? I think, what year was that? Was that 2004?
2004, yeah.
What was it like putting that out at that time?
Weird. I didn't know anything. I had no idea how anything worked. I didn't even know what a producer was. I didn't have any co-writers. I wrote everything by myself. They were written before I was ever signed. So like the process of making an album was, I think, very different for me than a lot of other artists who get signed and then they get put in with other songwriters and kind of like coached. And it was sort of my first songs I ever wrote ended up coming out, which is kind of embarrassing. Like it's not my best work.
I wouldn't call it embarrassing.
I'm not super proud of it, but there are a lot of fans that love it and connect with it. So I'm grateful for that. I don't want to like shit on it too much, but it's kind of cringe for me to personally listen back to. But yeah, it was different. I had no idea what I was doing or how it all worked. And I was also not aware that getting dropped is kind of a rite of passage. Like Lady Gaga, Pink, Bruno Mars, all of the greats were signed and dropped. And so when I first was dropped from my first album deal, I really thought my life was over. Like I thought that I was like, I'm washed up and I'm only, 22 or whatever. But turns out it's just like a practice run. It's like a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way to make it is through failing and pivoting. And I feel like the people that don't make it are the ones that are like, oh, well, that's done. And then they just head home to Minnesota.
Yeah.
What was that drive that kept you going? Because, I mean, LA is not an easy town. And when you feel like you're at the top and you lose the deal, like you're like, oh, I suck. I'm not talented. I'm never going to make it in this town. And people tell you that often.
Yeah, all the time where it's just like, well, it didn't work out. You had your shot. But honestly, I didn't know how to do anything else. I didn't finish high school. I was kicked out of high school in 9th grade.
Wait, you were kicked out of high school?
You were kicked out? Why were you kicked out?
I have a couple close girlfriends of mine and guy friends who are like, I'm like, I love the story. Everyone has different story arcs, but continue.
But they drop out. You were kicked out.
I was kicked out, yes. I was a bad influence. I was a raver, like full-blown.
Like Charlie XCX raver or like?
No, like Candy raver.
Ah,
I was a full-blown raver.
Okay.
I was very much into partying and illicit drugs and older men, and the parents all got together and decided that I was a bad influence, and they rallied with the teachers and they got me kicked out.
Now the older men part, like that's not, I was like me, but like the other side, the PTO moms coming together and like putting a petition, like that's not me. Wow, okay. So coming out of your time of your first album, getting dropped, I mean, Zach kind of had that, like, how do you keep yourself going? There's no handbook and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. It's a different time in music where there's not streaming. It's like you're either putting out albums or you're touring. Like, how did you mentally, first of all, congratulations getting through that.
Thank you.
How do you put yourself to keep going or like continue?
Well, because I had written those songs at that point, like years ago for my first album. And so I had grown as a writer and I wanted to hone my craft and see what else I was capable of. And there's also a big disconnect between like the kind of music that I wanted to make and the kind of music that I was putting out. Like I wanted to be Madonna, I wanted to be Britney Spears, but the kind of songs that I was naturally writing were more like Fiona Apple, were more like, sitting at the piano, like singer-songwriter vibes. And so I needed to learn how to match the music in my head to the music that was actually coming out. And that really had a lot to do with production. And so I started meeting some peers who were into production and learning how it all worked. And I ended up signing a small publishing deal and learning about how it all works and going in sessions and collaborating. And learning how to collaborate is like a whole other thing. It's a whole ego death because I was used to being solo and working on my own. And the idea that someone might have a better idea than me in the room is like, you kind of have to swallow your pride and be like, okay, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Would you say you're a good team player?
Absolutely now. Okay. I don't know that I was in the beginning. Again, and I work with a lot of young artists that are still learning that. And I have a lot of patience because I'm like, I get it. It's hard to give up your ideas and compromise. But so I'm very gentle and I like to encourage people to just like consider that, hey, if someone has a better idea than you still get to put your name on it,
Yeah. I want to go back to the music writing at a later point in this because I want to focus on like, from there you have Miss American Girl. Like, how was putting that out compared to your previous discography? Like, what was the approach this time? What was like, okay, here's my mindset going into this? Because I mean, a lot of people are very much like, I love that song. It is a staple. Like,
thank you.
what was it like coming to terms with, I'm going to put this out now?
Well, I mean, I was so happy. I was so excited because I had waited for so long and I had really been in the trenches and writing for other artists, and I had been around it. And now I was seasoned in the music industry. I had been behind the scenes. I knew how it all worked. I knew what it looked like. And so I felt a lot more prepared, and like I understood my aesthetic and who I was. I was just so young when I first got signed. I don't think anybody really knows who they are yet.
No.
So I'm glad that I got like the bigger shot once I was more comfortable with myself and knew who I wanted to be.
So was that also like another record deal, or like what was?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I got my second record deal after I had this crazy lucky run of songwriting stuff. But I think it was a blessing and a curse, because on the one hand, I was experienced and I knew how it all worked, but I kind of knew too much. And so like when the label tried to like, guide me this way, or you should do that, or you can't. I remember there's like a whole argument about how like I'm not allowed to wear cat eyeliner.
Why?
I don't know.
It's iconic.
I don't know. But like I've been wearing my makeup like this since I was 15, and I was like, I don't look like myself when I don't do that. And I was just like, they wanted to change the way that I dressed, all this stuff. And I was like, I've been here before. I don't like this. And I pushed back. And so there was always kind of like a butting of heads with the label.
Were you then labeled difficult?
Oh, yeah, always.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
No. And you had Bombastic shortly after, right?
Yeah.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while. Was that an EP that was put out?
Yes.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
like trying to get my facts straight, hitting mics left and right. How did that decision come about? Because you're obviously working with a label, and obviously American Girl came out later on this album you just released for Hot City as well. But like, what was the guidance to put out an EP?
Well, I had made this whole album, which is now Hot City, while I was still signed to that record deal. So all of these songs, like American Girl is technically the first single of the Hot City album. I toured all those songs, and I wasn't able to put it out. And so when I left the label, I just kind of had to grieve those songs and be like, okay, well, I guess they own the masters and there's nothing I can do. And so I just started from scratch and wrote the Bombastic EP and put it out. And that was my first independent release. And I learned so much. Oh my gosh, I learned about, first of all, all of the effort that goes into making videos on your own and having to pay for everything yourself, and how it all works. And I learned the value of my masters, which was one of the most important things, where I was like, if I got a sync, like I got a ton of syncs on that, which is when they place your music in like a film trailer or a movie or something. And it was like, oh, you get this much, and then you also get twice as much because you own the master. And I was like, what?
You're like, fine.
I was like, wait, the label's been taking half of the money this whole time? Like, what? And so that was like a huge epiphany for me. And I understood like how it can be pretty awesome to be independent, but it's also an uphill battle. It's a lot of work and a lot of money.
Yeah. I feel like, okay, I'm gonna let Zach have a minute. I've been asking like question after question on the discography course. What do you have, girl? Like, what's?
Well, explain to me the situation with the masters, because I'm very music illiterate. But the only thing I know about, the only thing I do know about masters is Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun, and how he like purchased her masters. So what is the masters? The original recording of the song, correct?
Yes.
And so the label owned those.
Yes.
And you were not able to then take those on with you.
Correct.
Did you have the publishing rights? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So if you think of a song as a pie, it's very complicated, but
we love pie.
But there's the intellectual property, which is the music and lyrics, which is the song itself. So if someone else covers it, then anybody can sing that, right? But the master is the actual physical recording of it. So the label paid for the studio. The label paid for the
upfront, so the costs.
Producers, all of that. And so they technically own the recording of it. And most label deals now, especially since Taylor Swift pulled her genius move, are going to write in clauses that say you cannot re-record these songs for 30 years or whatever it is. So I was lucky because I kind of put out one song and was like, bye, and left, where there was no re-record clause. So I was allowed to re-record them, and I didn't even know that until a few years ago.
You were Taylor Swift before Taylor Swift even...
Well, not really. I didn't know that was even an option. And so then when she did it, I was like, huh, I wonder if I can do that. And then looked through the contract and was like, oh my God, I can re-record these songs. And so that's exactly what I did.
Are you a Swiftie?
I mean, I love Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I can't like, recite all of her lyrics back to you, but
No,
I
me
have a
neither.
lot of respect for her.
But like, yeah, I respect her as an artist. She's a performer. What's it like also like to have that like, okay, riddle me this. When you came to that conclusion of like, I can re-record all of my songs, like, what was that feeling like? Were you like overwhelmed of like, do I want to do this? Or like, okay, I own this. I'm so happy that I can do whatever
I mean,
if I choose
I
to.
knew it was going to be a major undertaking because there were parts of it that I wanted to keep from some of the old ones that I was like, I can't really recreate this. And the fans had been, so I discovered this forum online that's like 500 pages long that was all dedicated to this unreleased album. And so I read through some of it and was like, okay, these fans are really still excited about these songs.
I saw snippets of this forum. That brings me back. I'm like, unlocking memory. I was like, I saw little pieces, especially on TikTok. You were like, where, what happened?
Yeah. And so when I saw that, and also when I got on TikTok a few years ago and everything I posted, it was like, we want Slay, we want Hot City. I was like, damn, there's like an audience for this. People still want it. And, I went into making this album not expecting to be number one, I just was like, you know what, this is just unfinished. And I want to put this out and not die knowing that I made an incredible album that never saw the light of day. And so when I saw this enthusiasm, I was like, maybe there is. And also the resurgence of nostalgia for the 2010s pop.
It is.
Like people kept talking about that. And I was like, I made a whole album in that era that's just sitting here.
Yeah.
And so, so I just went ahead and went for it.
So I feel like we've like pulled the car up in this saga to Hot City.
Mm-hmm.
So Hot City, like I'm obsessed with.
Thank you.
I know more than I should. I know you learned how to roller skate for the first time through TikTok. I learned that you also edited all of your videos.
Mm-hmm.
And you put out a banging fucking music video, which I
Thank
like.
you.
I love how in Jenny's Got a Boyfriend, like everything's just like illuminating in certain regions and parts.
Thank
Because I was like, I love this. What was it like to be producing and also editing the music videos for your album? Because like that's an undertaking.
Yeah, it's a lot. This past year has been like maybe the hardest I've ever worked in my life because not only was I recording, and I also record all my own vocals and edit all my own vocals and do everything. I'm an engineer, but I was directing. I was like styling a lot of it. I was casting. I made 5 music videos for this album, right? 5. Slay,
5? Hot
City, Don't Get Mad, Get Famous, Jenny's Got a Boyfriend, and Forever 21. So yes, 5 music videos, and I directed,
as independent too.
Yes, all independent.
Girl.
And I got real crafty, ordered a lot of stuff off of Amazon and then turned right back around and returned it. So thank you.
That's how you do it.
And I learned a lot about video production. I also, side note, I made a short film during the pandemic that randomly won a bunch of awards. So I've
what do you
been
mean randomly, like you have
brag.
the accolades, like brag about them. Like
well, I was, we were all sitting around in the pandemic going like, who am I? Who do I want to be? What makes me happy? And I always wanted to make a movie, and I had the time. And so I made a little short film. It's 13 minutes long. It's not available to the public because I don't know what I'm doing, but I put it.
But it won awards.
Yeah, I put it in the film festivals, like just hoping I could get into one, and then I ended up winning like 53 awards.
53?
Yes.
Man, you're like just a couple. That's like a whole family of reunion of awards.
It's crazy. I was not expecting that at all. I probably submitted to way too many of them, and I didn't realize there's also a whole there's a whole strategy to doing film festivals. So I just had no idea what I was doing. But I was like, okay, if I can do that, then I'm sure I can direct my own music videos. And I co-direct with my friend David Richardson, who also he did Bombastic, he did Wasted Youth, he did what's the other, Stars in Your Heart. So we are great collaborators. It's really nice to have another set of eyes on set. It's hard to be in front of and behind the camera at the same time. So I love working with David on that. But we conceptualize everything together, and then I have edited all these videos. And I really love editing, but it's
time consuming.
It's very time consuming.
Like that's kind of how Zach and I work. Zach's like, I'm like, you need to be in front of the camera so I can do the fucking test and like sit your ass down. And like, I edit it home, and I'm like putting this out the next day. And he's like, how are you? I'm like, fine. Sending him a cut at like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is good for publishing.
Yeah, no, I forget to eat. I forget to drink water. I forget to sleep. And then it's been like 3 weeks of me just like sitting in the same spot on the couch, like my eyes are going to turn square, from staring at a screen. But I love having that creative control. I have learned to do a lot of these things that usually you have to pay people for, just out of necessity as an indie artist. Yeah. And also, I am such a perfectionist and I have such a clear vision that it's sometimes easier to just do it myself than to have to explain in great detail to someone how I want it to be. And I like to work on my own schedule. If I want to work until 5 a.m, cool. I can't expect someone else to be awake when I text them at 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, hey, I think we should, I just like to have control. I'm kind of a control freak.
Type A here. Hey, like, little things. Back to Zach. I'm like grappling on this mic.
So what would you say are like some of the biggest challenges with being independent? Well, I think people don't understand the differences between being with an actual label or having, like an actual management team and doing everything on your own, because one, you do have a lot more of that creative control, but like the workload is all on you.
Yeah.
How do you keep that sustainable without burning yourself out?
I mean, it's not. Yeah. And I have burned out.
Yeah.
I'm completely burned out. I had like a full mental breakdown a couple months ago and was like, I'm just losing my mind. So you got to take a break and remember to sleep. But yeah, it's taken a major mental toll. And also, the pressure of having to also be a marketing genius and do TikTok and like expect to have output every single day. So I have found some really great people to help me with that. That has greatly improved my quality of life because I was doing it all myself for most of this campaign. I do have to kind of break down and ask for help at some point.
It takes a certain drive though that I think not a lot of people, or maybe a certain work ethic that I don't think a lot of people are willing to actually put in that amount of work, which I feel like is a conversation right now between like hustle culture and like, no, you need to take time for self-care. I've always been of the mentality, because I'm a lot like you, let me do it all. I know how I like it done. I'm very particular. It's easy. Instead of giving an editor 50,000 notes and tweaking every little thing, I would rather just go into the actual video editing program and tweaking it myself.
Exactly.
But like, how do you find that balance? Or do you think it's even necessary? Because I'm kind of like, listen, I know it's toxic to have that hustle culture, but it's like, it's afforded me everything that I have, especially at a younger age, that yes, it can be unsustainable, but I'd rather work hard now to be able to reap the benefits of it later.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. Where I'm just like, I feel like I can't go on vacation if I have pending work because I'm not going to be able to relax. And that's a me problem. I'm a workaholic for sure. But I think that the trick is to like work in spurts where it's like I do a batch of content, or I will work crazy hard for 6 weeks and then be like, okay, I need to take a brain break. I need to go to the desert and meditate or something. But it's hard because I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work, but I see my health suffer and my relationships suffer. And so I have to like really kind of reel it in. And
how is it then working with other artists? Because you write with, it's collaborative, but I imagine being such a control freak, there are certain details that you want to push forward, and then you have to make it that collaborative process. Like, when
it comes to working with other artists, I'm not as much of a control freak. If I really feel like I want to fight for something and I'm like, we got to keep this on track, then I will. But for the most part, I'm they're my client. Like, I'm in the service industry. I'm here to help you fulfill your vision. So I'm not going to like put my fingerprints all over it if I don't need to. If an artist is perfectly happy with something and I'm like, okay, it's good, and maybe it's not perfect for me, but like, if you're happy, I'm here to make you happy. I'm here to help you. So I'm not as much of a control freak in that way with other artists.
Before we like pull the Hot City car into like songwriting, what has been like your favorite part about like the new album? Like, you have favorite songs, you have favorite music videos, favorite like ideas?
I really love world building. I mean, when it occurred to me, like, because I wasn't sure what I was going to call the album yet. And when I started putting together decks and stuff for the Hot City music video, I was like, this is a whole world. Yeah. Hot City is a destination. Hot City is like my dream world, my fantasy escape. And all of the songs fit in there. So that was, I think Hot City is my favorite song. I don't know. It's hard to say. They all have like a special place in my heart.
I just scream it all the time.
Thank you.
I wanna fucking call you.
Thank you.
And I scream Hot City around the house. And my roommate, who's straight, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. Just in my room by myself, being a teenage girl.
I love it.
It's fine. Now we're shifting gear. LOI, I keep talking like we're like in a car, like we're just going through all
Great.
different. Great.
Perfect.
We're
Love a
driving
pen. Let's
through.
go.
So we're in the songwriting side because she is a multi-hyphenated director, editor, producer, the whole thing. Songwriting, girl. I know you're gonna sit here and be like, "Oh, I like written a few songs." No, like you have been a very pivotal part in music, and let's just start from the beginning. How the writing process came along, because you obviously had a gap of your time putting out your own music, and you're like, let me just flip the switch and like start writing for other people. What started that?
Like I mentioned, I really started writing songs with other people out of necessity. So I had met Katy Perry socially first. We were both in line at Wasteland. I don't know if you're familiar with the
Hell
thrift
yeah.
store.
Hell yeah, girl.
We were both broke artists selling our clothes at a thrift store.
Really?
And she approached me and was like, "Oh, you're Bonnie McKee." Like she was I was like the only time I was ever recognized in public, and I was like, "Oh my God." And we were fast friends. I didn't have any friends my age, any peers that were also artists. And we had a very similar style and we got along really well. And so she called me in on the second album. And we were just kindred spirits. And when I signed the publishing deal, it was understood that like, okay, so you're going to write on this Katy stuff and then we'll focus on your artist project. And I was like, okay. So I was like kind of, staying in the trenches and doing my job so that I could earn my right to be an artist again. But then I was simultaneously working on the Britney Spears Femme Fatale album. And then I worked on the Kesha stuff. And then, it was just kind of like all of these huge opportunities that I couldn't say no to. And I was like, I'm just going to ride this wave. Like, this is going to help fund my own project. And I can move out of my shitty apartment in Hollywood on Yucca and Gower.
Hey.
Hey. And it was fun. And I was learning so much. I got to study with Max Martin, who is the greatest songwriter in the world and producer. And so I really enjoyed that time. It was very fruitful, and I'm really grateful for that experience. But it was always to land me back in the artist seat.
So did like these people call you up, or do you like call them and say planting seeds, or you get recommended? Like people obviously want to know, how do you break in? Like what was it to go from writing Tayo Cruz, like Adam Lambert, like a bunch of stuff? Were you writing these already in shop and you're like in a writing camp if anyone wants to take them, or how does that process come about for not being necessarily called up directly?
Well, I signed with a producer, and he was on all of these projects. So I was lucky because I was sort of in circle. I was in the circle of trust or whatever. So I was getting put into these huge, huge sessions. I'm extremely fortunate that I was just kind of phoned into those. Like they just sort of dropped me in and were like, "We think you're good enough. Go for it." But there were many years before that of me. My first cut ever, I don't know if you remember Elliot Yamin. He was an American Idol runner-up.
Yeah.
And I remember I got my first cut ever on like the Japanese deluxe version. And I like went home for Thanksgiving and like told my family, I was like, "Guess what? Like I got a cut." And they were like, "What? Like how does this even work? Like who is that? What are you talking about?" But it took me years to just get my first little baby, deluxe Japanese release.
Yeah.
And then that led to my publishers had everything to do with that. I signed with Pulse, which was a boutique company at the time. Now they're huge. They just started a label, and they really championed me and put me in all the right rooms. And they kind of work. A publisher is kind of like an agent for a songwriter, where they will set up sessions. They talk to the labels and they're like, "What are you looking for?" or whatever. And they put me in the right rooms. I ended up working with Kelly Clarkson and Carly Rae Jepsen and all the other pop girlies that made sense. So I really owe it to them.
What are some of your fave songs that you've gotten to write, or favorite artists that you're like, "Hey girl, let's do this again," like whatever, wherever?
I mean, hard to choose. I'm so fortunate and grateful to have gotten to work with so many icons. I did not get to meet Cher, but I did get a Cher cut, and that was pretty epic. It wasn't a single, it wasn't whatever, but that was really, really fun.
That's exciting.
She's like, if people are like, "Oh, like who would you ever want to, if you could go to dinner with anyone?" I'm like, Cher. Like I love Cher, and I really like, she's such an icon and like a blueprint for like how to be gracefully famous your whole life. And I just think she's a genius.
How to be gracefully famous your whole life. That's the Cher like memoir title.
Honestly, like
it should be.
She's just so classy. She's just so humble but also like confident. Oh, whatever. She's the best. Anyway, so that was a cool one.
That's a slap. That's a a good slap, like keep it, like that slaps.
Are you still close with Katy Perry?
No.
No.
No, I haven't talked to her in a long time.
When was the last time you guys connected?
I think she texted me on my birthday in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of her new, well, I guess the new single that just came out?
I think the
'Cause the album's
melodies,
not out
I think the
yet.
melody's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think she looks fantastic.
She does. She got a little heat for this new single, though. Do you feel like it was warranted? Well, I guess the music video, people felt like it was too like 2010s, but I feel like we're having this nostalgic like comeback of like that 2010s music that people are interested in again.
Well, you know, I didn't write the song and I didn't direct the video. Like, would I have done something different? Probably. But like, I'm happy to see her doing her thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to a lot of music too right now, like there's a lot of music that's just changing, and like the cycle of music has like come and gone. There's a lot of artists who have like now been quote unquote getting their flowers, and there's like a lot of artists who have been like this 10-year quote unquote overnight success. Like, have you also seen a lot of people on the rise right now that like you've also become like friends with over the years, and you're like, it obviously we all know it takes a village.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh my gosh, like Chappell Roan, there's like a big surge, and like Charlie. What's it like to watch these other artists like blossom right now?
It's so exciting. I'm so like, what a great summer this has been for pop music.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
we're
I'm
finally having a pop
Yes,
like
I'm
renaissance, right?
so happy because like there was a lot of years where I was just like, damn, I just like, am I just getting old? Like, I don't get what's happening on the radio. I don't get what these kids are listening to. Like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just old. Maybe I just am, you know how like people just stop like discovering new music at a certain age. And it's like, oh, I'm just always only going to like what I liked when I was in high school. But then once pop was back, I was like, thank you, gals. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so excited to go to these shows. I love seeing all the content that people are doing. I love seeing them support each other.
Yeah.
Like Sabrina, Chappell, Charlie. Like, it's a really exciting time in pop music. I'm
Who are
I'm
your
really
current
stoked.
pop girlies. We fight about this every week.
No, we don't. I mean, you're uneducated in music, so like whatever.
Yeah, I have a very
I mean,
low
it's
palate.
look, I think that I really love the new Kesha song as well. I think
Yeah.
Joyride is really sick. But I
That
wake
one
up.
also has like old school tones to it.
Yeah, no, it's so great because it's so left and weird and like uniquely Kesha, and really such an earworm. It's so great. She's a great lyricist, great performer. I'm a fan.
Are you still close with her?
Nope.
What- I guess on a friend note, like there's times you work with someone, you naturally become friends. Obviously, you talked about how you ran into Katie at like Wasteland, but like when it is a working-esque relationship, like how do you also balance that tie of like you are a singer, you're also a songwriter, and like you have clients, and then you also have friends. Like how is it to balance that? Because I don't know how I personally would be able to do that. Like I have clients, and they're like, "Let's hang," and I'm like, or you're a fan of my stuff. Okay, cool. Like I don't know that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I never get offended. Like, first of all, I stopped being offended by like people not responding or whatever 20 years ago because there's plenty of people that I don't respond to where I'm like, I'm busy, you're busy, everyone's just
I'm
like
up
trying to
till 5 a.m.
survive. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. So I don't take it personally, and it's like there's people that come in and out where I don't talk to them for years, and then they reach out, and it's like no time's passed at all. You know, I just like
Oh,
I
that's
never
nice.
take it personal. You know?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you have a big roster of people you've worked with, or like probably again you've collaborated with in your own stuff. I want to shift gears because we talked about pop girlies, music that's coming out that you're like, I'm ready for this. I want to hear your thoughts. Are you ready for Paris Hilton's new music?
I'm so ready.
Okay.
I'm so ready.
Because
Paris Hilton is so sweet. Like I met her before I ever wrote any hits, and it was nobody, whatever, if you will, if that's such a thing as being a nobody. And she was so sweet. And then I would see her over the years, and she always remembered me, and she was always kind. And I just have nothing but great things to say about her. I think she's a genius. I love her.
Are you excited for the Simple Life reunion that
I'm
she's doing
so
with Nicole?
excited. I
keep-
also love Nicole.
Yeah.
Nicole's also the
do you watch
sweetheart.
like reality TV, or like you're that girl, or like
I don't that much. I used to. And then honestly, like I just got Apple TV, and I'm just kind of like, you know, if something's not, I'm not going to like seek it out. Like I watched like Love is Blind and was like, oh yeah, I see this is like crack, you know what I mean? Like, I understand. But like, I don't know. I've never been into Real Housewives. Like, I feel like I miss a lot of that stuff because all my friends are obsessed, and I'm like,
no, everyone's educating. Well, this bitch is educating me all the time, and I'm like, haha, that scene. They're like, he's like, what are you talking about? That's like pop culture staple, and I'm like, okay.
Like, I know the references. Like, what was it? Like, Scary Island or Crazy Island or something.
See, I don't know what this is.
Like, my friends have sat me down and been like, you need to watch this. You need to educate. And I'm like, okay, so like, I know the bullet points, but like, I don't follow it.
I get that.
Yeah.
Other music. We have Zedd is releasing his 3rd album.
Oh.
So Zedd's had a lot of features and more. Have you ever listened to Zedd music? That's like a different demo, of course, but some artists are like, no, I'm like in pop. Like, I love pop. Like, that's why I make pop music. What are your thoughts on Zedd's new album? Are you excited for it?
I didn't know it was coming. I am excited for it. I was actually just thinking about him the other day because I heard that like Charlie XCX bought his house or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, what's up with Zedd? And I mean, I've known him over the years. I've like written some stuff that didn't come out or whatever with him. He's great. I've always loved his music. I think it's a really good combination of like the EDM stuff and pop. I think he has a really great pop ear. So I'm excited to see what he does for sure.
Suki Waterhouse.
I love her. I didn't know that she was putting out music again. But I'm stoked.
You're like, I'm getting this news as much as you are.
Breaking the news.
Yeah. Newsflash.
And obviously, the new thing that just broke right as we're actually doing this interview is Charlie XCX is doing a remix of one of her songs from the Brat album with Billie Eilish.
Oh, incredible.
Are you familiar with Brat Summer?
Yes.
Okay. Are you feeling like it is a Brat Summer as like a coined term? You're like, I feel it. I live it. There's like Hot City and there's Brat Summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so exciting what's been happening with the Kamala stuff. Like, I feel like, honestly, like the Brat Summer thing with the coconut tree, whatever, I was like, wow, this honestly has given me hope for democracy.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, we were all like, oh my God, we're doomed. And then, when Gen Z gets involved and when it becomes a cultural moment, like, we stand a chance. Like, people are actually motivated to do something and like get behind someone. And I love having a female in the White House and seeing where that goes. So I'm like I'm really excited about it.
I think we're all excited. It's also wild at timing. Like, oh, cool. Like Brat Summer, it's 2-3 weeks prior. Like Kamala's blowing up, and then she's like, "Fuck it, I'm in." Like I'm in for like the presidency, and the timing is just like she had such a viral moment with like a music artist also, and so anytime too, people were like, "Oh, music artists, they don't really have like an impact." It's like, no,
they
actually,
absolutely
like,
do.
Music has an impact. Things change people, their emotions, how they feel. Have you ever had like a person like connect with your music so much, like, wow, like I'm taken back by this? Or like, do you have a moment over your years where someone's like, you love this as much as like I do? Okay.
Like with my own music?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's like why I do what I do. Honestly, like when I love meeting my fans, I love talking to my fans. Like I genuinely would not have put this album out if I hadn't gotten the feedback from the fans encouraging me. And like they have followed my journey, my ups, my downs. I've had a lot of extreme luck, a lot of great things, a lot of terrible things. And they've been there the whole time. And when they tell me their own stories of perseverance and resilience, then I feel like I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this for them, and we're in it together. And like I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah. Zach, I mean, we've gabbed for like a minute. Are there any final questions? I'm like, we've covered. You have so much like knowledge and just like experience.
You gave her so much like new music that's coming out that she didn't know about. But is there anything coming out that you are excited about in the music world?
I don't know.
Are you excited that Eminem has come back?
I am. Have
you listened to the album? Because we've discussed this.
I haven't listened to it. I've been watching his content and stuff, and I'm like, this is really interesting. Him like killing his former self, and I mean, I think he's a genius, and I think that he, it's funny watching like Gen Z react to him, and like everyone's trying to cancel him. Just like, I don't know. I love that he's sober now because I'm also sober, and I'm like, I believe that people can change and evolve, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Eminem's.
He had to educate me about the new Eminem album because I was like, I hadn't gotten a chance to listen to it. There's times we help each other a little bit. I'm on my training wheels.
He keeps me on the pop girly track. I listen. I've now been exposed to Charlie XCX, and I'm excited for this Billie Eilish collaboration.
I am too. That is really exciting.
Yeah,
I like the new Billie Eilish stuff.
It's Guess, right?
Yeah,
the
that's
song?
my I mean, I feel like a hot girl when I'm walking around, and like there's just something about my girls and music that like when they put out a song, I'm like, I feel hot. I feel like a little dirty right now. And I'm like, I want to like scream. Like
Yes.
so I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on today. You have
you.
such bops and bangers.
Thank you.
Making me feel like a hot girl all the time. But yeah, no, it's been such a nice time chatting with you, hearing your experience as a singer and an amazing songwriter. Like just kudos all around. And
Thank
you are the moment.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you. Thank you.
But-
It makes me really happy that you guys are enjoying it. It's like, that's why I do this. I just want to make people happy. I just want to.
And you are.
Thank you.
And
You
so
do.
obviously, if you are happy, obviously subscribe wherever you're listening to on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and YouTube and all that. But Zach, is there anything else exciting coming up for us?
I mean, another week of the Pop Report.
Another week, girl.
I mean,
we
is there
did it.
something on the calendar that I don't know about?
No, I just want to see what's coming up in your life because sometimes it's like anything exciting for you coming up.
Well, I don't know if I can talk about.
I love when we're like,
You can
Can't-
talk
don't-
about it.
Well, I think
Just don't look at that corner.
I think I'm going on tour.
ah.
I think
You
I'm
think
doing a
we don't know?
little
It's not
tour.
confirmed. We don't
I
know.
mean, I can't like officially announce, but yeah, I'm going to be playing some shows coming up,
Mm.
and I'm really excited.
Mm.
And also, the vinyl is coming. The vinyl is finally coming,
Oh.
so I'm really excited. I've never done vinyl, and like I've always wanted to do it, so I'm really stoked.
Vinyls are so pretty.
I know,
Like,
I love it.
the Olivia Rodrigo one is so like the stars that move. I don't understand how like the technology of vinyl works to make
Yeah.
lustrous and everything, but congrats. That's
Thank
exciting. We'll
you.
be coming to Hot City and having a bop in time.
Yes, thank you.
Mm.
But obviously, find more Pop Report and we'll see you all real soon.